Greetings, traveler. Are games useful in life? In your life? This is the topic that we're going to talk about today. So, to give some context, a lot of people say often that games are a waste of time. You could be doing so many other things with your time. It's just empty effort essentially. But is that the case? So today I want to talk about these four things. First, why do people play games? Why don't we do something else naturally? Then I want to talk about a fun story about learning something cool inside a game. And then I want to talk about how you can apply in-game skills to your life, whether it's in the games industry or beyond. So my name is Xanthos. I've been living in Tokyo and working in the games industry for the past decade or so. And for those of you who walk the path of making games, this is for you. So let's jump in. Are games useful to you? Well, first of all, why do people play games? Do only people play games? Do animals play games too? Well, let's think about it. When you see little cats chasing each other, why do they do it? Why do little dogs, run around and they pretend to hunt each other or bite each other, but without really doing so? Why do they do it? When fish and birds do all these playful movements with each other, why are they doing it? They're not hunting, they're not trying to harm each other. But at the same time, we've seen animals just relax, just sit down, conserve energy, rest, sleep. So when animals are playing, they're not resting and they're not hunting for food either. So why are they doing it? Well, if you follow the recent science and your own observations about it, you might find that playing games for animals is an opportunity to exercise a skill that's going to be vital in their life in a safe environment. It gives them the opportunity to just fool around, role play, pretend to be the hunter or the prey, be half serious as long as it's beneficial to them, and have nothing to risk. It's fun. They do it out of their own volition. Nobody forces them to do it. If you look at humans as well, when you observe little children out in the park, they're not sitting down staring at each other. They're not each one in their own corner staring at a tree. They all group together. They chase each other. They play with a ball. They invent something to do. They all run around and climb and jump and they laugh and they have fun. Why do they do that? Nobody told them to do that. They beg their parents to let them do it. Why do they do it? If not for this, what do you call it, biological circuit that's inside us that tells us, well, if you do it, that's going to be fun. That's going to be useful. There's a meaning in it. What is the meaning in that? What is the meaning in us playing games and, as an extension, video games? Another aspect of it is the communal part, right? So sometimes you play in a group. You have to organize the group. You have to divide roles. The roles might change from one time to the other. The leader might change from one game to another. How good you are at each game changes. You observe others playing the game. You say, that person is good at running. That person is really strong. That person has great strategic ideas. This gives you an opportunity to observe the group and observe what's good about people around you and what's good about yourself as well. So clearly, this is part of all living things, and ignoring it would be a huge wasted opportunity. Let's see how we can use it. So let's just jump in with a story I want to share. And I'm going to share this story as a little secret bonus in the star format. So the star format is something you might have heard in the context of interviews. When somebody asks you what's a big challenge you've had in your career, or what's a difficult situation you managed to overcome, please share it with us. And secretly convince us why you're good and why we should hire you. This is the format I'm going to say the story in, so if you want to know more about it, go ahead and look it up. It's really interesting. So this is a story from back in the day when I was playing Final Fantasy XI, a long time ago. So to give you a bit of context, in Final Fantasy XI, which is an online, massively multiplayer online RPG, so lots of people playing online at the same time, the primary way of leveling up your character and becoming stronger would be forming a group with other players and together defeating a monster that's much stronger than any one of you individually. So this is the preferred way, or it was back in the day, for leveling up, because if you tried to fight a monster by yourself, regardless of what sort of character you had, you wouldn't earn as much XP per hour than you would in the group. So what were those groups like? Those groups consisted typically of 1 or 2 tanks, 1 or 2 healers, and the rest would be damage dealers. So classes that were specifically meant to deal damage to the monster, while the tank keeps the monster on them, keeps their attention on themselves, and all the damage dealt to the tank was leveled off by the healer. So the situation there is that a group can function with just 1 tank and just 1 healer, they're good enough, and everybody else would be damage dealers, which is quite a strange role balance if you think about it. So 1 person is a tank, 1 person is a healer, and potentially 4 people can be damage dealers. Why is there that separation there? Well, in games often you hear about the power fantasy. You can get stronger and stronger. And what better way to showcase your strength than dealing lots of damage to a monster? I think lots of people identify with that, lots of people enjoy it, and it's just fun to do. Not that being a tank and a healer is not fun, but somehow a lot of people feel the motivation to live out that power fantasy. So the situation is that back in the day, in that game, there was no automatic way of forming groups, at least as long as I was playing. So if you wanted to form a group to go out and hunt some monster for leveling up, you had to actually announce it in chat. You had to go to a city and say, hey everyone, I'm putting a party together to go hunt so and so. We need 1 tank and 1 healer, and other than that we're set. We've got the rest of the members. That was the situation. And back then I was playing as a damage dealer myself. So seeing about the role economy here, you see that because the party has so much space for damage dealers, it's much easier to find them. So when you get a member that wants to join your group as a damage dealer, it's generally less valuable, still necessary, than a tank or a healer, because we absolutely need these guys. And there's not that many around that are willing to do the role. So that was the problem. How do I find a group being a damage dealer? Why would some group pick me over all the other damage dealers that are available in the game? How do I convince them that I'm better? Am I better? I don't know. I'm just another damage dealer. There's no super special, unique thing about me. So that led me to lots and lots and lots of hours waiting around in cities, saying, hey guys, any moment now, I'm here waiting, please recruit me. Eventually I realized that, yeah, that would happen sometimes, but even when it happened, it would take a really long time and a certain amount of scarcity of other damage dealers for me to get picked. It wasn't bad, but I wanted more. I wanted to progress in the game faster. And there were days where even though I waited for 1 or 2 hours doing other small tasks on the side, I just couldn't find the group. And I thought, man, that's not fun. I wanna, exercise my skills as a damage dealer. So this is what I had to do. I had to start my own group. And this sounds very obvious, but for me it was a big step back in the day. I didn't feel I knew enough about the game to lead a group out into the wilderness to find the right kind of monster to hunt down, because in that game, it was really easy to get run off and killed by some monster that's way stronger than you on your way to the spot where you want to place the party. The world was vast. It was purposely made so that it had all these little nooks and crannies where it was easy to get lost. It was hard to navigate. It was difficult to sneak past other monsters that are in your way and you don't really want to engage them. You don't have any reason to engage them for that purpose. So there was several things to research and know about the world location-wise. Now, party-wise, there was the task of motivating people to join my party versus somebody else's party. There was other people shouting for recruiting members for their group. Why would people join me? And finally, there was the challenge of, well, let's say, so the Final Fantasy had this, 11 had this feature where if another player wanted to, they could inspect your gear. And if they saw that your gear was not good enough for the level that you are, or that your class and subclass combination was a strange one, that it wouldn't lead to a strong damage output, they might say, you know what, you could improve a little bit. So the last part was making sure that my gear and my skills and my setup was up to spec for what others would expect and how we would function best in the group. So that's what I did. That was my action plan. 1, research the world, research good spots for parties, research how to get there safely with my group, not just by myself. 2, find the players to join the party and motivate them. So here a key point was going to recruit the tanks and the healers first, because those were the absolutely necessary and rare parts of the group. And then for the damage dealers, usually there was lots of them looking for a party at the time, so that was the easier part of the process. And finally, I had to research, well, people who play the same class as me, what gear do they wear? What subclass combination do they do with their main class? What abilities do they use? What's the best way to output damage with this current setup? And then I also realized there was lots of things I could do to improve, right? So that was an exciting opportunity for me because, well, that feeds right into the power fantasy. I want to level up. I want to get stronger. The result, I went from going hours on end without a party to having a party basically whenever I wanted to. I breezed my way to the level cap. I never had a problem finding people. After a while, people started remembering me because everybody progressed to the levels at roughly the same rate. And they're like, oh yeah, you're the guy from the other time. Yeah, let's go. So my experience completely changed because of this. What I used to struggle with became a breeze, and I stopped being intimidated by forming parties and leading them out into the wild to hunt just the right thing for our level. And it was just fun. Recruiting them, talking to them, showing them secret spots that only I knew because I had taken some time to look up online what some less explored areas, less hunted monsters and so on. This became hugely valuable to the party members as well. So that worked really, really well for me. And now you're wondering, okay, that's good. Well, what does that have to do with me? Well, here's a little framework I came up with to help you apply these things and these lessons beyond the game, right? So, of course, in your situation, you're playing something else. Or maybe you're not even playing video games. Maybe you're playing tabletop games or sports or whatever. This is your superpower. This is what makes you more motivated, more skillful, more focused than anybody else around you. So here's the framework. First step, you observe the games you play, or the sports you play, or the things you do. You try to notice what's the main point of them. So for example, You may play chess, or you may play video games, or you may play a casual game on your phone, or basketball. Anything you choose to do to relax for the precious time that you can afford to do it has some type of human skill involved. So some of the primary ones that I can identify easily with most games is, first of all, focus. You have the unique ability to sit down or do one thing for the time that you choose to do it without allowing other things to interfere. When you're playing basketball, that's what you're doing. You cannot be sending a message at the same time. When you're playing chess, yeah, chess, nothing else. When you're playing video games, whether it's for 30 seconds or hours on end, this is what you're doing. And this is what a lot of people struggle with. You might have heard about people having a hard time focusing on their work, having a hard time focusing on their studies, but you can do it so easily in sports, in games, in video games. That is your superpower. That is something people around you can't seem to be able to do or are struggling with, and that's something you can do easily, effortlessly. So using that skill and that motivation in other areas in your life will make you a superstar. But let's look at some more. You hone some skill in games. So that could be either learning the rules of the game really, really well and using them to your advantage. It could be management of resources. So maybe you're building a city and you have to balance what buildings you have to build, how quickly, when do the people in your city need them, what's the good placement of these buildings, how to make sure all the population is happy, and so on. If you're playing a war game or a strategy game, you already have your soldiers, you already have your battle resources. There's a million ways to use them. What's the best one? Which are the ones that you came up with that are effective in the game? Which ones gave you the victory? If you think about it, you had to prioritize what to use first, what to use second, and so on, or in what concentration, how do you encircle the enemy, how do you use your archers, how do you use your cavalry, artillery, all these things. There's a million ways you could use them. You could send the cavalry to charge in first, or you could just rely entirely on the archers. There is no good and bad answer here, but only you know what worked for you. And that skill is gold. What else can you do? You also train your reflexes. So people say that the movement of muscles is purely something physical, right? But from science we know that the way you think about it is really important as well. Having the right motivation to move your muscles is super important. So in FPS games, like many people know, there is a clear advantage to finding the enemy before they find you. In basketball, soccer, tennis, you have a clear motivation to coordinate your body to defeat your opponent. And it's not just all in the brain at the same time. A lot of the things we do are stored in what we call muscle memory. So people who play basketball may tell you that the movement is something that's ingrained in their body, and there is a famous example of Michael Jordan being able to do the free shots with his eyes closed and get it right every time. He just knew it. That part of the game was in his muscles, literally. And that's the same thing you can achieve playing first-person shooter games, or maybe something like StarCraft that requires very precise mouse control. Think about in the future, for example, how quickly you could work with graphics software like Photoshop or Excel or something, knowing exactly where to move your mouse, how quickly, what to type in it, how to move on to the next task. Trust me, there is a huge value in that. There is a huge demand for people who are efficient in their tasks like that. And finally, there is your contact with people. in games. This could be either in the context of forming groups, forming guilds, motivating people to join your cause, but also just talking to them and seeing what they like, learning about their personality, forming a human connection with them. Games provide an excellent catalyst for this environment. They provide a common interest for two people to talk. Perhaps in real life you've seen someone you wanted to talk to, but you just didn't know what to talk to them about. Well, in the game, you know at least one thing that you both have in common, right? And it doesn't have to be about leading your own guild and achieving all these things by yourself. Another way to exploit this is, how about teaching something to someone? Maybe you invite your friend to play with you and they don't know the game as well as you do. Teaching is a hugely valuable skill in this world. In my opinion, it's the most important skill in this world for humans, for what we do in life in general. So these are some examples that you can observe in your gaming habits and you can benefit from in areas other than that. So this is the second step of this framework that I want to talk about. How to find an area outside of games to apply all these wonderful skills you have developed. So think about what you do outside of life for a moment. Probably everyone has gone through school or is working right now or is doing some chores at home and so on. Think about the task itself. So, school, you have a book, you need to learn it, you need to pass an exam. Is this not a bit like the activity in the game? Now, granted, the tutorial in the game is usually much better than the tutorial at school or at work, but once you get the hang of it, once you understand that, okay, there's this thing I'm going to have to do later on, and this process is preparing me for it, and very crucially, it's letting me fail as many times as I want before I actually have to go there and complete it. That process is literally gold. You have no idea how powerful this is in real life. So just imagine how many people out there are really bored at school, really bored at work, they don't want to do it. You've heard of people who have to learn something super simple and they have no motivation to do it, even though it is super simple. So using that experience you have of learning something in game and then using the same skill to build upon it little by little to clear the game and the next game and so many others after it, that is a hugely powerful fuel for not just clearing one game, clearing life itself possibly. So that's a consideration as well. And once you find that area in your life where you want to apply the skills that we talked about before, so being able to focus, the specific skill you have learned in the game, your way of motivating people and connecting with them, and your ability to educate others. How do you go about it, right? This is the third step of the framework. So think about it this way. You want to try something in real life. For example, let's say you played a snowboard game and you think, wow, I'm really good at the snowboard game and snowboard is fun. Snowboarding looks cool. You go in these mountains and you wear all these crazy outfits and the people who can do the tricks and ride fast, they look so awesome. I want to be like them. So how do you go about going from playing a snowboard game to riding a snowboard in real life? The key here, just like a game, is to give yourself a challenge you can absolutely smash. A challenge that you can do, let's say, with your eyes closed, that you have zero chance of failing, just like the first thing you do in any game. So for a snowboard, that might be something like strapping on the snowboard and just standing, just practicing the balance. Even if you fall down, so what? You can just get up and do it again. Just standing is usually the first thing you might learn. And just like in games, if you have a good tutorial or a friend to be your teacher, that's going to supercharge your skill of learning things, of progressing in them, being able to ask questions, ask for tips for improvement, and so on. So just like with games, the first minute that you played it, you were progressing it and you were good, but a month later of playing it, you're way better. You know all these things, you have all these new skills, you have so much more confidence in the game. Well, that happens with everything else as well. So snowboards are like that, driving cars are like that, talking to new people is like that. So engaging and getting the experience, finding what to say, the right thing to say, the right way to approach them, the right topic to talk about. I spoke before about how two people playing the same game together have at least one topic in common they can talk about. I'm sure there's many more, but at the very minimum there's one. So you might go about your life and observe another person in school or at work or wearing a funny t-shirt like this one I got from back when I was working in EA. And you say, hey, you like games too, or hey, you like this metal band, or hey, you work at this other department. What is that like? Talking to people in that sense about something they care about, that's something relevant to them, is a really good start for reaching out to people. And just like with forming groups in games, when you ask someone to join your group, there's of course no guarantee they will say yes. Perhaps they're busy. Perhaps they have their own group to worry about. Perhaps they're doing something else at the time. Just knowing about it and just asking the question and then hearing their answer and say, oh, no, sorry, I'm busy right now. That's completely fine. Now you know. But because you asked, they can say, yeah, let's go do that. So the first time you'll get good results out of it. The 10th or 100th or 1 month later of doing this, you will have so much confidence, you will have so much more skill in what you choose to apply this part of your game experience outside of life. You'll be amazed with the results. So that's it for the framework. So how do I know this works? How do I know that this is a great framework for everyone to follow? Well, I've been doing this basically for all my life. Since I was, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years old, I've been playing games. I've heard many people tell me that games are a waste of time and I should do something else. And that's not necessarily untrue. But I found that there's so much value in games, so much motivation I can get from them and so many things I can learn with them, that it would be a crime not to use it in real life and not to share it with others. So, first of all, doing something. Games teach you that doing something, no matter what it is, makes you better at it. So any game you choose to stick with and play for any amount of time, you will progressively get better. You might feel sometimes demotivated because you're failing a lot, but here's some great words that I heard. I would much rather know why I failed than succeed and not know why. So failure is a much greater teacher than a simple success. Knowing what to do is most of the time all the experience and all the knowledge. So on top of that, people love learning and being good at things. From psychology, from the self-determination theory, we know that something that defines a person is the quality to feel good for being good at something. People just love that. It's just part of our human circuit. Improving in something, no matter whether it's in-game or outside or whatever you choose to do, if you're good at something, it feels good. It builds your confidence, it makes you enjoy doing it more and more, and then you get even better at it, so it creates this awesome self-propelling cycle of just getting better and better results from the effort and the time that you put in it. And also let's talk about passion, which is something a lot of people, I think, may be confused about. So a lot of people that I've spoken to in life say, well, you know, you're so lucky, you have your passion with games, I don't have any passion. Well, let's unpack that a little bit. Everyone does something when they have some free time. Even if that's watching a video, doing something to relax, or even sleeping. Everybody does something that they cannot wait to do again. They really look forward to. Food is also a big one, cooking, gardening, all these things that are really, really relaxing to people. Games, of course. So people love doing these things. So sometimes they do them and they do not consider them a passion. Maybe you don't think that gardening is your passion, but if it's fun and you do it, is it not? And at the same time, let's say you do something for a while, and just because you did it, you became good at it, you became proficient at it, you have some confidence in it. Doing that just feels good. It's something that gives you pleasure. You look at the result and you think, you're satisfied with it. So this is the power of what you can learn in a game or even outside that you can apply to so many other areas of your life. And the failure that you might encounter here and there is beautiful. It's a wonderful opportunity to know that, okay, so if I don't do that, I rock. Hugely important lesson, very valuable, very cool. And finally, if you also take a look around you, people, even successful people in life, right? They very often just follow a set group of instructions or advice. So a very common one is do well in school, study well, you'll get good grades. Because you get good grades, you can get into a good university and then get a good job. That type of career. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's sort of an instruction that you follow. Someone else came and told you, you have to do all these things. So you will of course get success because of what we said before. If you do something, you just cannot help getting better at it. But we have a greater opportunity than that. People often say that they don't have time to do other things because they're too busy with work or school or family and so on. But if you're lucky enough to have the time to afford to play games, you can see beyond that. You can see so much further than what you see normally in real life, what people usually talk about. You literally have a window into another world. And you can see all the possibilities lining up before you. You could practice your people management skills, or your motor skills, or your strategic skills, or your ability to just focus on one thing and do it until you are peerless, way above anybody you know, way above anybody that exists in the world even. And that gives you the ability to choose. That gives you the strength to not just be able to do what you were told or what you have to do, but also see outside and think, well, what do I want to do? What gives me pleasure? I've had all these experiences in games or in sports and so on. Is that something I want to do? I know everybody's telling me, you should do so and so. Okay, yeah, I hear that. But what is something based on my experience that I enjoy and that I feel good doing? That's something you can use at any point of your life, and it's guaranteed to pay back its value in gold to you. So that's it for today. At the end, I would like to give a shout out to Paris and Timo for their endless support in this new podcast. And I would also like to give a shout out to Shoner, who was my first subscriber outside of people I know. So I'm gonna give a link down below in the description to his channel. So thank you for your time. Please let me know if something I talked about today here is of interest to you and you would like to hear more. Other than that, have fun.